Yeah, we're going to talk about a really important topic that's probably on a lot of people's mind is AI, and then what can you do with AI? There's a lot of things you can do with AI. There's also a lot of things you can't do with AI, and a lot of us have already found out, some of the limitations. But the use case we're going to look at today is how to create content with AI, which is really, it's fair to say that's kind of where AI shines in some ways, right? That's one of the first applications of AI that a lot of people have start using. So we'll be talking about that with you today. So yeah, like I don't have to go through the rules here. Make sure your microphone is muted when you're not speaking. We encourage you to keep your video running though. It's really nice to look at people when you're actually speaking. Joe, you're a professional speaker. You know what it's like to speak to a black wall. So we do appreciate it if you're willing. And then there will be definitely Q&A at the end. We'll make sure we have time for that. But also, if during the presentation you have any questions that you just want to get out there, we encourage you to just put it in the chat bar, and then Katie may even either interrupt me or interrupt herself, I guess, because Katie, you're doing most of the speaking today. And then, yeah, we like to keep it as informal and interactive as possible, right? So we're a relatively small group, so we can actually be fairly personal. And bottom line is we want your questions answered, so you can use this information to your advantage. That's ultimately our goal. So with that, introductions. So I want to introduce you to Caitlin. Caitlin is our content strategist here at Edge. So she does the bulk of the writing, editing, whatever else we make her do. So she's really good at that, and this is kind of her area. And just so you know, she's a bit of an AI skeptic, which in some ways is not a bad thing. So yeah, we're gonna. I look forward to hearing your take on some of these things, Katie, and how we actually use AI at Edge. And then also I have Tyler on the call as well. Tyler is our digital expert, and he's also our AI champion. So he's really in tune with what's happening in our world. So he's at the end. Tyler will give us a brief demo, actually a live demo of one of the tools that we are using here. So again, thanks for being on the call, Tyler. And then Haytham is another one of our team members on the call as well. So I hate them. Oh, there you go. I didn't know you could do that. You're such a whiz, like unbelievable. All right, so the agenda for today. So we're going to talk about the big problem with creating content, and I think everybody on this call is probably familiar with this, right? Like it's creating good quality content is hard, time consuming, and we generally speaking can find a thousand other things we want to do first before we start writing content. But we also know it's very necessary in today's, especially for marketing, that you get your message out there and actually, you add value to the conversation, and content is the primary way of doing that. So, Katie will talk about the big problem that a lot of people have, including ourselves. We're not excluded from that. And then we have a solution, like a 5-step content creation framework. Again, this is how we do it. I'm not saying that's the only way to do it, but I think this is just the best way we know how to do things when it comes to content creation, and then especially how we integrate AI in that. We want to talk a little bit about the AI platforms. Again, there's a lot of confusion, I think, a lot of noise about all the different options that are available for you. So we have some recommendations for you today to say a place to start. I want to talk a little bit about the team approach to AI as well. Like a lot of small businesses and organizations, there's generally more than one person that needs to deal with this. So again, there is some uncertainty about like how can you get your team on board using AI if you work in the team, and also how can you manage that workflow so you're very effective and efficient while still like putting out quality content. So we'll talk about that a little bit, and then as I said earlier, Tyler will just walk us through like a tool that we are using. It was formerly called Team DPT. Now, as of this morning, it's been renamed. We'll talk about it a little bit as well. And then at the end, we'll have some Q&A. So if anybody has any questions, let me know. But if not, then Katie, I'll hand it over to you, I guess, so you can walk us through some of some of the work that you're doing and some of the philosophy behind how AI integrates into our content creation workflow at Edge.
Yeah, definitely. So at Edge, we've been utilizing AI in regards to content creation for quite a while. Even if we didn't totally realize it was AI, like Grammarly, for example, we've been using since I started back in 2020, and that is technically an AI writing tool, and it definitely has expanded a lot more in just AI writing capabilities. But we've, in the last couple of years, definitely utilized AI more to help ease the workflow for us, and then also to help us with ideation, in addition to the actual content creation process. So the big problem with creating content we find with a lot of small business owners, or even just within their marketing team, or whether it's an admin managing their social media or something like that, is that there's limited time and effort that they can put into creating that content. So if you have like a full month's worth of content that you have to create, whether it's a blog post, email campaign, social media content, it takes a lot of effort and time. And when you're trying to balance other things that you're doing in your job, it kind of gets pushed to the wayside, even though it is such a valuable part of your marketing contents, how you connect and inform your audience. So creating content, if there's a solution to kind of getting it off your plate, AI could be that thing. Just because also whether you have an interest in writing content or not is definitely a big help. But once you start using AI to create content, you kind of arrive at a new problem. Is that you don't know which tool to use and how to properly use it. So once you kind of prompt AI, hey, write me a social media post for today, it's going to sound very generic, going to sound like everyone else's. It's not going to sound like your brand at all. So you have to find a way to use the right tools and the right way to make content that sounds just like you and your business. So AI can do a lot of things, but there's a lot that it can't do. So AI can help you generate ideas when you're stuck. So if you're one of the biggest problems, at least for me, even as a content creator, is that sometimes you have trouble coming up with ideas, topics that will appeal to your audience, provide valuable information. So it can definitely help with creating ideas for what content to create that will resonate with your audience. And then you can create outlines, first drafts of content, research topics and audiences. You can speed that up significantly using AI. And then, but what it can't do is replace your unique voice. It's not going to know what your brand sounds like. It's not going to know anything about your business. It's not going to understand how to create content off authentic content that kind of creates that connection with your audience, and it doesn't build real relationships. So just because it is a robot, but that's where you come in as a human to humanize the content.
Yeah, I think one of the questions that came through from people that signed up was like how far do I need to take the content before I engage AI? Right? I don't know who asked the question, but we can briefly talk about it right now. Our philosophy is more so like what where Katie started. What AI is really good at is coming up with ideas, outlines, like doing that research that used to take us, a long time, and we couldn't do it as well as AI, to be honest with you, because we just didn't have the resources. But then the really important part that we have found out is that like once you get an idea to write about, now all of a sudden it's easier to either write it yourself, use AI to help you again take that next step. But then at your value as a human being, we believe, or our value comes in the last 20% of this equation, and actually, taking some of those ideas and actually finalizing them. Now, there's a lot of controversy around this whole idea of creating content, like is AI if the way to go, or like who actually owns those ideas? Well, I think our philosophy on that is again like everything needs to be moderated by a human being. Like nothing goes out of our workflow without a human looking at it. And sometimes Katie, you notice like sometimes it does a better job than other days, right? Like depending on some of the techniques we're using. So if this resonates with anybody, like if you have used AI already and you feel like, yeah, that's kind of the way you use AI, or else, let us know in the chat bot, and love to hear from you as well how you've experienced it so far.
So just kind of touching back on what AI can and can't do. So through the process, there's th about 5 steps that you kind of need to follow. So using AI to create content. So topic development is the first step. So using AI to establish what topics will resonate with your ideal audience. What do they want to know most about? And then it can help you create outlines. So whether it's planning a full month's worth of content for social media, outlining a blog post, and then once you kind of review that, um, it's always kind of stepping back. You always want to have human eyes on every phase of it. So when it generates the topics, you review them, see which ones you actually feel will resonate with your audience, just because you know them best. Review your outline, remove sections, add new sections in based on kind of how you feel would best work for your company, and then generate the content using AI. So you have to be very careful to review this content to ensure that it's accurate, it aligns with your brand, and that it's definitely going to be beneficial for your audience. So we'll kind of touch on this later on. So prompting is very important when generating content with AI. It's very much like a intern at your business. If you don't provide it with enough information, the output's going to be poor. And so again, once that content's created, always provide human enhancement, whether it's going through and adjusting the brand tone, providing actual case studies or testimonials or examples from your business. And then quality control is again checking to make sure everything aligns and that everything is correct in regards to any statistics or anything like that. Okay, so when you are prompting AI, if you say type in write me a blog post about winter tires, you're going to get the most generic blog post ever seen. It's going to sound like every other blog post created by AI. But when you provide it with context, such as your content strategist giving it a job, write a compelling and informative blog post about winter tires for middle-aged men who drive trucks in central Alberta. Use a conversational tone, focus on safety and practical benefits. So the more context you can provide AI with, the better results you're going to get. So quality control, again, nothing ever goes out or should go out directly copy and pasted from AI. Whether that's accidentally copying over some of the prompt from AI or it's looking for AI tells, such as everyone's kind of out for M dashes now because of AI, unfortunately, or certain buzzwords that AI overuses, made up statistics and sources. So this is actually called AI hallucinations. So essentially, AI is kind of a people pleaser. It wants to affirm your stance. It wants to prove that it's correct. So sometimes it will make up artificial statistics or sources. It's always best. You can ask AI for a source on a statistic. However, sometimes it will also make up fake links to fake sources. So what I often do is I'll copy that statistic and paste it into Google to see if I can find the actual source. And if I can't, I will usually try to find another one to replace it with.
Hey,
Check. Yeah.
sorry, Katie. One question for you, but since I had to ask you this question myself last week, can you
Mhm.
explain the M dash? What it is?
Yeah, so it's a form of punctuation. It's like that longer kind of dash that you use in the middle of two thoughts
Hmm.
to kind of break them up, but also connect them.
Yeah. So grammatically it's correct, but like in everyday language and writing, we don't really use it that much, right? So that kind of gives it away that the piece is AI generated. And I totally agree with the confirmation bias that AI machines have. They want to please us. And even if I have the dumbest idea that I run through AI, the AI will tell me, Peter, that was just a brilliant idea, which is makes me feel nice, good, but I mean it's not very helpful, right? So sometimes I think the models are getting better and smarter, but some of those things are still something to look out for. So thanks for bringing that up. So has anybody in the group here, has an example of an hallucination, like a result that you got from AI that was completely missing the mark? Any examples?
I think there's lots of images online that are hallucinations. I think we see them. I saw one yesterday, nail care, 2 fingers in, 2 fingers out. Someone was showing
Yeah,
off.
yeah,
I mean, it happens all the time. I do find it grammatically frustrating as someone who does write, as someone who does have an English background, uh, speaks in everything from poetry to proper prose. I find it exceptionally frustrating to watch people create what is supposed to be good prose. So I would call that hallucination as well. In fact, the vast majority of business owners I'm witnessing are trying to be writers when they simply aren't, which in some ways is the impetus of this webinar. And that can really backfire quick, especially if it doesn't speak your brand voice. So yeah, I see hallucinations all the time. And I've seen some really rotten examples. But if you can't spell check or grammatically check your own work, then you actually can't find a hallucination.
yeah.
And so I find that fascinating in the psychology of this too.
Yeah, no, thanks for sharing that, Joe. And it's definitely it's such a new area, and just like any other tool, some in the tool in the right hands will create good results, just like a woodworking tool does. But in the wrong hands, or somebody that doesn't have the skill set to actually use it properly, yeah, we see some really ugly stuff appearing here and there. So yeah, that's an interesting concept. It's something to look out for, like in your own work. You can't really control what other people do with this tool, but you can control what you do with yourself. So I think, yeah, thanks for sharing that, and yeah, continue on, Katie.
Yeah, definitely. And just kind of on Joe's point that sometimes if you kind of prompt it to have like a more conversational, casual tone, it'll kind of like throw any rules of grammar out the window. So often I've had instances where something produced through Claude, for example, is kind of going to head to head with Grammarly. So the two AI tools going head to head in regards to what grammatically is correct. But again, it's always so important to check everything to ensure brand and voice consistency, and that is also grammatically correct. Okay, so as part of your context, you can sometimes it's hard to pick out those buzzwords or those frequently used AI words that kind of have become tells for AI generated content. It can be difficult to go through and pick those out. So we've actually developed a list of common AI tells, whether it's certain words or sentence structures that we actually feed into the AI prompt as part of the context, and it knows to avoid those words. So if anyone is interested in that list to help ease the content creation process just a little bit, we can send that to you. Feel free to just put a message in the chat or feel free to email us afterwards. We can send that over to you. Just note that this list is created based on Edge. So some of the words that we have chosen might be included in your brand voice. So feel free to customize the list as based on your brand.
Okay, thanks, Katie, for that. So any questions so far? Let me know. But we now want to shift gears a little bit about talking about like what tools to use, right? And again, these are just recommendations that we have What we see in the industry, just like any other industry, developing industry, it's a big race between some really large companies. Who's going to be the top dog in AI? So ChatGPT is kind of the original, the company OpenAI has kind of made this more popular, more accessible, right? They were the first ones to move, so they're still very well known. A lot of people, like an AI engine is basically ChatGPT is almost becoming a verb, right? Just like Google and Googling in the past. But there's some other big players that we keep our eye on, and one of them is Claude, which is a different language model that is not as well known, but actually better. It's in certain ways for certain purposes. Google Gemini is the other big one, right? Like if you're a believer in Google, then you probably have access to the Gemini features. And again, Gemini has made big strides to become better. And yeah, and then there's Perplexity. Now there is probably like Tyler, like 10, 20, 30, 50 others that we could mention, but it's just these are the big ones that most people are using. So again, one of the recommendations we have for people like yourself, and if you're new to this, you're just dipping your toes in the water of AI. Uh, look at some of these tools and see which one you like. And in some cases, you maybe already have access to Gemini because you have a paid Google account. Well, I would start with Gemini because it does basically these models do basically the same things. But there is certain use cases that one of the models is better than others. So keep that in mind. But stick with one. Create an account. Like experiment with it. And then I think that's the biggest thing. What you should be doing. And I'm sure a lot of people on the call are already using it extensively. But it is you'd be surprised that people are afraid of AI, right? And it's and I don't blame them. Like it's a new technology that has a lot of potential, but also a lot of potential downsides. But the bottom line is you should just try it out and see if it works for you. So um, the one thing once you settle on a tool that you like, I would highly recommend like paying the $20 a month to actually get the paid subscription. We have found better quality also better data security, which is another whole different issue, right? Like everything that you upload into the chat will actually become part of somebody else's data set. Now, there's a lot of talk about this, a lot of concerns about it. If I look at Facebook and some of the social channels, what they do with content, it's very similar, right? Like everything we put on is actually becomes property of the company, and a lot of people don't know about this perhaps or don't care about it anymore. But AI, of course, when it comes to sensitive corporate data, then of course there are some security concerns that a lot of larger companies are really struggling with how to implement this. But yeah, if you pay for something, you have priority, use of the tool. It's generally a little bit better, I think. So I think it's well worth the investment, like in the education in AI, to actually pay a small fee. And then just choose the platform that works for you and that kind of suits your goals. So the reason why I'm saying this, like even within the ChatGPT models, there's a whole bunch of submodels that you can use as well. So I don't want to belabor this too much, but there's actually, when you say ChatGPT, there's actually at least 10 versions of ChatGPT that are developed for different purposes. Tyler, you probably have a better understanding of how that all works, but it has to do with the complexity of what you're trying to do, and then also with the cost, because there's a tremendous cost in processing power that comes with AI, as everybody knows. And some models are just more efficient. They may not be able to do everything, but they're just good enough for certain tasks. So again, keep an eye on that as well. Claude, Gemini, they all have different versions that you can choose from.
Peter, before we go ahead, I think we missed one of the slides.
Oh,
If you go to the context one. There you go.
okay. Sorry about that.
That's okay. So just kind of going back to the example of proper prompting. So with AI, the more context you can provide it with, the better. You can really never provide AI with too much context. So some of the key contexts that you could provide AI when prompting it is to define the AI's role. So you are a content creator, you are a content strategist, you are a business owner for X company. Specify your audience. So the demographics, their interests, their pain points. Pain points are a huge thing to identify in your content. Provided examples. So previous content, it can actually pull the brand voice from any previous content you've written. So if you just upload a link to a blog post or a email that you've sent out before, it can pull that brand voice from those examples to help better match any content that it produces. And then set parameters such as the tone, length, key points to cover, definitely to guide it. Um, Now, AI is still a little iffy on counting, so if you give it a word count, it will probably just blow it out of the water. It'll totally ignore it. And then outputs will be specific about what formats you want the results in.
Okay, thanks, Katie. Yeah, like it again, we found that giving AI enough context, just like looking at AI as an intern or an employee, perhaps, you need to give it the context to do its job properly. So I think if anything, if you're getting if don't getting the results from AI that you're looking for, it generally has to do with the context you're giving AI. Is that correct?
Yeah, definitely. So if you provide it with just say, write me a blog post, again, is going to not be great. But again, is the more context you can provide, the better.
All right. So now we go back to where we were here. So another issue or another problem
I'm
that we
going to
see.
go into the back office and just listen to this.
So one of the problems that a lot of businesses need to solve is like how do I introduce AI to our team, right? So if you're a solopreneur, you work by yourself, you don't really have to worry too much about it. But a lot of small businesses, including ourselves, we feel we need to have a system in place to encourage a healthy AI adoption. And when I say healthy AI adoption, is something that is kind of planned out because again, there's all these tools out there, and some people on your team will really jump on this, right? People like Tyler, they love this stuff. They're good at it. They understand what it can do. But then there's also people that may want to use it, but they're not confident or they're not really sure if they should. They're a little skeptical, perhaps. And the third category of your team maybe is hoping that AI will go away, right? So they never have to use it. But we all know that's probably not very realistic. So um, I think it's very important, like if you're a business owner or you lead a small team, you need to make sure that you keep your team members accountable for how they use AI, because first of all, for reasons of privacy, right? Like we're dealing with, private information from our clients, for example. I want to make sure that private information doesn't get stored on some server or some system that we kind of lose track of it, right? Because that could really, create problems sometime in the future. So I think I can see a whole movement towards companies really trying to figure this out. And the bigger the company is, the bigger the group you work with, the harder this is becoming because it's so new and everybody's kind of doing their own thing. But I think it's super important for you to control this part of your business, so you make sure that the people in your team, including yourself, are using AI in the right way. So um, team use of AI is an area that need every small business owner should pay attention to because let's face it, some of your staff is already using AI. You just don't know about it. Team collaboration, we felt again maybe we're a little unique because we work so closely together as a team on a lot of things. But we to find a tool, if somebody uses ChatGPT and does a query or ask a question to ChatGPT, nobody else in the organization will see the results of that or actually has any idea that these things are happening. So if we can find a system that we can work together on as a team, that's definitely another part that we kind of have try to figure out. And we have a solution right now that we work with that Tyler will talk about it in a minute here. But I think that's also something that you should consider to set up a system that you actually work together with other people on AI. And I think that's kind of the future. And then data security and user control is I already mentioned that, right? Like everything we upload in chat will somewhere, somehow live on somebody's server. And a lot of large companies, financial companies, healthcare companies are really, really concerned about that, right? Because data security is super important. So we have landed on a tool called Juba. It used to be called Team GPT until yesterday. So this is brand new, but this is the tool that we're using. And I'm not saying it's the only tool. I'm sure there's other ways you can solve the same problem. But again, we're just sharing what we know. So the nice thing about this platform is it has all the main models built in. So even if I'm writing or Katie is writing a piece of content, you can actually switch back and forth between basically paid versions of all those different AI engines, which we have found very, very helpful because it's really hard again to manage 4 or 5 subscriptions to all these tools, right? And also gets really expensive as well. So we really, we pick and choose the models that we feel are the best for our purpose. So now we found, I already mentioned this earlier, but Claude, for example, is really good right now at content writing, and not a lot of people are using it. Well, a lot of people are using it for content writing, but people just automatically gravitate to the first available model that they have access to. But again, if you wanna improve the outcomes, you can actually pick and choose from the models that actually work best for your use case. Katie talked about the context, how super important context is when you do AI work. So, we are able to save a whole bunch of context. And again, this is related to client work, like work we do for our clients. So we're actually saving a whole bunch of context per client already, and that really saves us a lot of time when we generate new content. It actually looks at the information of our client, like their brand voice, their strategy, their writing style, and some of those things. So that allows us to do this tool allows us to do that. The team collaboration, we can actually it's kind of like a shared Google Drive. We can actually work on the same document, but this is an AI document. So any review in our workflow, we stay in the tools. We don't have to copy and paste anymore, which is really quite helpful. The quality control, we're super aware that, especially as a marketing agency, let's face it, we're under the microscope. Everything we do needs to fly and needs to be high quality, and it's no different for your business, right? Like, um, and then ultimately, yeah, the cost for this platform is actually lower if you compare it to all the individual subscriptions. So again, this is how we have solved our AI problem for now. Will this be the tool that we're using 6 months from now? I can let you know, I suppose. But it's moving so quickly that this is something that works for us right now. So if you're in a situation that you work with a team, if you're in a situation that you want to do some of your marketing writing, for example, we have an offer for our clients that we actually help them setting up AI. So instead of, we do content writing for clients, right? We write content for emails, for example, blog posts, websites. If there's an instance that some of our clients have asked us, okay, well, that's great that you guys are doing this. It's really handy, but we want to take some of that stuff in-house again. Now with some of these tools that we have available for our clients, and it's not for everybody, but some clients are actually moving into that direction. They can actually do a better job of managing their internal AI with the help of a marketing agency and an expert by their side instead of having to figure all this stuff out on their own. So if you are at all in that category and you want to lean into that, find out more, let us know. This is all brand new, like we're developing it as we go along. That's just being honest. But we do believe there's a place for people. People are going to use AI anyway, so you may as well help them to use AI in the right way. So any other questions in the chat that I missed, Katie, or anybody wants to open the microphone and ask a question, by all means. So Tyler, is there anything in the chat bot? I don't see anything. So Tyler, do you want to quickly give us an overview of what that looks like in the real world, I guess?
Sure. Hi, everybody. Thanks for attending the webinar today. I'll just share my screen here. Is that appearing okay for everybody? Wonderful. Okay, so we have been working with Joomla, formerly called Team GPT, which is I guess a lesson for people. If you get sued by $1 trillion company, you have to change your name because that's what happens. So today is the rollout of their new skin, but essentially everything is the same. Um, so this is a platform that we discovered as we were trying to figure out how to deal with a few of the pain points we were encountering, which is we're faced with a bunch of tools we have to learn. We have team members who are uh, sh finding out that they have a preference for one tool over another. So, say our content creator, Katie likes Claude, and I'm doing a lot of data processing, and I'm finding that ChatGPT is better. Well, one of the problems that we were encountering is that the information and the work Katie is doing, and the work I was doing, they're in different places. So as an organization, that's really kind of annoying if you're doing, say, your accounting in one place and your social media in another, and you're trying to keep all of that organized. That can be kind of tedious. So that is how we discovered Team GPT, now Joomla. And so for the demo today, I'll kind of go through some of the features it has that just make it preferable, I think, for most people, not just for a marketing agency. Um, and so yeah, let's jump in. So if you see, it is laid out pretty similar to ChatGPT. On the left-hand side, you have your chats and your projects and those kinds of things. They're all in a list. And in the center is where you have your chat here. And then on the right side, it allows you to add some context in a way that's really convenient compared to the other AI models. So um, I guess we'll just jump right in. So I've created a test project for a client called Bob's Flowers, and if you're a small business owner, you could actually pretend that this is your business. And so what I've done here is I've got a few things I can do to get ready so that we're not just treating it like a blank chat and going in blind. I can upload some information that will apply to any future chats I have. So for Bob's Flowers, I've basically said you're a social media expert. You create posts for Bob's Flowers, a small florist business. Please check all of your project knowledge every time you write. And so that allows us to add some more context. And so I'll try not to jump from window to window too much. Um, but basically, what I've added to Bob's Flowers is the about section you might find on your website, or maybe you have your own private document with some information about your business. So I've got that in there. Then I've got a strategy plan for what we're looking at doing for Bob's Flowers' is social media. So all of that's in there. I've got some financial information in case I need to do some accounting. I've got a voice guide that I've built that has my own voice. And then I've even got a customer list, which includes my customers' names, their numbers, purchases they've made, or any additional information I might have. And so what that means now is when I go to chat or when I go to create social media posts or any other task I want, all of that information is waiting at all times so that I've got a really high context um, data set to work from. And another thing I can actually add, which I can show, this is what we'll send along. Um, I'm not sure if that's showing up. But this is a content checklist for AI generated writing. So you can also include this in the files. And basically now when Team GPT or Joomla goes to write for you, it's going to make sure it doesn't sound like AI because you've done all this work uh, to ensure that it writes well for you. So that's a really cool part of this platform is that you can add all of this context to your project and get a really cool output from it. What's also cool about it, so I'll actually get started just so we have some demonstrated content here. So I'll say, please create a social media plan for this month. So now that all of that context is in there, I don't need to give uh, the chatbot very much information. It already knows about the company, it knows the voice to write in, and it even knows about some of the clientele. So now we've got some goals. And as Peter and Katie mentioned, coming up with ideas is a really big part of how we create things like social media plans. So now we've got some ideas. Moving forward from today, it knows it's Wednesday, so we're moving forward from there, and it's giving me post type ideas, the content themes, and now obviously if we have our strategy built out, we'll have ideas for themes for each month. So for November, we'll do one topic. December, maybe it'll be client uh, reviews. January, maybe we're doing we're learning about flower types, things like that. So if that information is in there, that allows it to build out a plan that's really tailored to your strategy. And so it's really cool to have all of this stuff waiting so that you're not looking at a blank screen, asking yourself, like, where do I start every month, right? So another cool thing that Team GPT allows us to do is it allows us to work together. So when I've created this social media plan, I've done the initial work, I've looked it over, but maybe I want to get a second set of eyes on it. Well, now Katie or Peter or Hatham can go from their account and jump directly into this chat and start asking more questions or giving more orders. So this means that we can pass the work along and work all together in one place. So it depends on your business structure or what your goals are, but that's an additional place where we found value. In addition, um, people have heard, I'm sure, of these AI agents that are going to come take everyone's jobs, or that can do these amazing things. And we're not quite there yet for them to be ubiquitous. But with Team GPT, we are starting to build these assistants, these AI agents. And so the one that I'll demonstrate today is a meeting transcript summarizer. So a lot of the people in the Zoom call today have their note takers that will produce a transcript at the end of the meeting. And we find at Edge that we do a lot of meetings with clients that can run sometimes 1, 2 hours, and we will record those, the voice recordings, and then we will transcribe them. And so for our purposes, we've created an assistant that allows us to create a summary that's tailored to our business. So instead of just saying, please summarize this meeting and then hoping you get a good response, we create a set of instructions in the project that is tailored to Edge. So this will prepare not only a summary, it could prepare an email response to the client so that not only are we getting a summary for our own usage, we're creating a document that's tailored to the client and gives them the information they need moving out of the meeting. So we've built that out. And the way that I can demonstrate that is with the Bob's Flowers document I have prepared here. And the nice thing too, Team GPT, as you can see, it holds all of the files you put in across all projects. So you don't have to go digging for files in your Google Docs or anything like that. Once you put a file into the platform, it stays there. So it's just there's a ton of features like this that are all catering towards organization and ease of use. And we're just finding we're getting a lot out of the platform in that sense. So I will try to find the meeting. There we go. So, oh, 1 second here. There we are. Sorry. Okay. So now that I've added the meeting transcript, all I need to do after every meeting is say, please summarize. And so as you can see, It spits out a beautiful summary of Bob's meeting with Sarah Thompson, and it gives us a summary, decisions, discussion points, action items, and next steps. And so we've built all these tailored to Edge and our clients, but you can really do this with any task you can think of. If you every month are processing transactions and you want to make a report for a single client and all of their transactions, or if you are like we analyze our pay-per-click ad campaigns. We do things like building out frequently asked questions sections for websites. All of these tasks can be given their own folder, and you can insert the client's files and immediately get a result tailored to your business. So I don't want to overwhelm you all too much, but as you can see, there's a lot of cool stuff we can do. So I think I'll just wrap up there.
Yeah, thanks, Tyler. You
Just
can
a
you can
question, Tyler. Just with you kind of saying like you've uploaded financial transactions to Juma, is there any concerns with security in that regard?
Yeah, great question, Katie.
I can
Actually,
I can probably try to
sure.
answer that question. So yeah, like then that's a very good point, and a lot of organizations are concerned about this, and rightfully so. So I think the first thing you need to understand is that like on the paid version of ChatGPT or Claude, like a lot of this information is encrypted. And with TeamGPT as well, like everything actually, nothing goes to the language models. Everything stays within the platform. Now I know that information still lives somewhere, right? And not just the digital pieces of information just need to live somewhere. But the fact that you want to look for an encrypted way of uploading that information, because if you don't, then the AI models will basically use that information to train their models, and that's the last thing you want to do. Some people may not be concerned about it, but I would be concerned about, uploading an income statement or even anything related to the client that I don't really want to keep in the cloud. So does that answer your question, Katie, or the person that asked the question?
Yeah, definitely.
Anybody else, or we have some questions from that were sent in before we can try to answer?
Yeah, if you have any questions, feel free to unmute or just leave them in the chat and we'll be happy to answer them. Or if you think of a question after the webinar is over, feel free to email us and we'd be happy to reach out as well.
Yeah, do you have any questions from that were sent in earlier that we haven't talked about yet?
Um, how do I work with AI to reduce my workload?
Haha. Excellent question, right? So, yeah, like what I would recommend is to start with like a simple repetitive task that you do on a weekly basis or on a daily basis. And almost like every task I go through right now, I say to myself, is there a way that AI can help me do this faster or better? And I think it's really important to take baby steps. Don't try to automate everything you do on a daily basis. It just doesn't really, it's not realistic. But if you can start out with solving a small problem first, you'll build that confidence and knowledge on how to actually do it. And I think a lot of repetitive things, a lot of things that tasks that need a lot of data, right? So we have some people that deal with numbers. AI is just excellent in making sense of numbers and data, like large sets of data that we as human beings just have a hard time with. So start looking in some of those pain points that you have. Like try to think of repetitive things that you do on a daily basis or weekly basis, and say, hey, if I spent the time to automate this, like I had an example with our credit card statement, my credit card statement, I needed to do some research on it and actually analyze a few things and double check a few things. So I actually uploaded the whole statement, the PDF, asked the right questions, and back came a spreadsheet basically with that same information with with some calculations on there that would have taken me probably a couple hours to do on a monthly basis. So I invested a couple hours to set it up once, and I'm using it once a month now, and that probably saves me an hour or two each month, and it just works, right? And then from there on, you kind of make things better because you're always trying to tweak things. But
So just a question in the chat. They would like some training on AI. Is that available?
yeah, absolutely. Like we feel that like we're in a really good position to help our clients, including you, to with AI implementation, just because the marketing industry was the first industries that were hit pretty hard by AI, right? Because a lot of the things we do are technical. They're based on data. There are a lot of things we measure when we talk about online marketing. So we do have a good set of we definitely have a lot of knowledge already. Like we don't know everything. I'll be completely open about it. We're still learning every day, but we do have some resources and some learnings that we've gone through that we want to transfer to you guys, because even if you don't use us as an agency, even if means you're just building things yourself, I would highly recommend that if we can be of any assistance. So the long answer is we don't have a training program set up or anything like that. We can definitely point you to some, depending on your needs on training programs that are available. But just a conversation, like a one-on-one conversation about like how, let's just figure out what's going on in your business. Like what are some of the pain points that you can think of, and how can we steer you in the right direction? Even if we would not be the partners to actually do that work for you, we can at the very least put you in the right direction. So good question.
So Joe, we have a question.
Yeah, thanks very much, all of you. I really appreciate your minds on this, but I appreciate it from a local perspective. So thanks for the presentation today. I know plenty has been made of the scares to recognizing what's real and what's not. We're starting to see that plenty, and the ethical dilemma that business owners, even local business owners and very small one, solopreneurs have with putting out content not in a nefarious way, but nonetheless fake and false content, visual images that just simply aren't real. I know that many of the platforms now put the onus on the user to report whether something is false or fake. I can think of Instagram and Facebook, where you can or are supposed to put in the fact that AI is being used in what you're doing. At the same time, that's user onus. And
Yeah.
we all recognize that likes or popularity and ultimately sales for organizations and businesses come from reactions, engagements, and likes. How are, in your opinion, where are we going to go as the vast majority of non-creatives use creative software like this to become writers,
Yeah.
and the ability to do things, where do you think it's going to go? Because I personally don't believe that the onus will be or is being taken advantage of. People are simply using created content that isn't real. And
Yeah.
unfortunately, there's so many people that just don't know that. Where do you think that's going to go, and where are the ethics
Yeah.
for a business owner? Maybe you can talk to that, Peter.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, no, great question. So I think I kind of compared a little bit with the desktop publishing revolution, right? Like we're old enough to kind of remember the probably 80s, 70s, 80s. The power of graphic design was brought to the end user, right? We also, if we're old enough, we know what the results were of that, right? Like a lot of ugly stuff being produced. People found out, well, it's actually not that easy as we thought it would be. And the same thing, graphic designers would be without work, within years because of the new desktop publishing technology. But reality is there's more graphic designers now than ever before. Like a lot of people, I think, to answer your question more directly on the AI generated content, I think a lot of people will, when they start doing it, then they're doing it the wrong way. They're going to find out pretty quick that it's not working for them, right? And actually, it will negatively affect their reputation. As far as and Katie mentioned it as well. Like if you use the tools of the trade, and it's just like almost like woodworking tools in the right hands can produce really great results. And my philosophy is AI is another tool in the toolbox, and it can speed up the content ideation, the content creation, but then a human being needs to know what they're doing with it. And as far as the volume, and you bring up a good point, the sheer volume of AI generated content that's coming people's way, people are going to be very, very suspicious about any piece of content after this, right? And then that's a real problem for us as marketers, because even if you write it from scratch, and if people can't see the difference between our writing and what AI comes up with, it's a very confusing place. So it's definitely not all clear sailing. Like it's definitely there's definitely some concerns, but I think my philosophy is that a lot of and there's a whole other aspect as well, like what is the most important thing in branding or in marketing going to be, right? Like we've always said content is king, and it's true to a certain extent, but now that's being challenged because everybody can create content, or they think they can create content, and there's just after a while, I think people will have a hard time actually accepting any piece of content, and that's going to be definitely a challenge for us. So I don't really have the answer. I don't know exactly how it's going to play out, but I think you're bringing up a good point. I think that's why personal brands, and it's a completely different discussion, are going to be so important, right? Like who actually owns the company, who is real. Like even these events that we're doing, like although it's virtual, you're still talking in real time to real people, and I think people are going to crave more and more for that over just content that's being created, right? So not sure if I'm really answering your question, but those are some of my ideas around it.
No, I appreciate that. It was more on ethics and what a business owner or anyone on this call who is going to adopt these strategies. What is your opinion? And I know we're running out of time. What is your opinion on what we should morally do? We can all drive drunk. You may get caught, you may not. You can choose to do that, or you can learn not to do that and have
Yeah.
ethical boundaries. I'm wondering if there shouldn't be ethical boundaries taught by professionals like you, me, and others, because unfortunately, people have to be told to be ethical sometimes, which
Yeah.
is very sad.
Yeah, but I think yeah, like the market will in some ways kind of correct that itself. I think. I mean, if you put out garbage that is AI generated, everybody will be able to spot it from a mile away. If you position yourself as the guy, the expert, and you have original ideas and original solutions for problems, I think you're gonna win.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, we're at the top of the hour here, so I want to respect everybody's time, but we're definitely not in a rush to leave ourselves. Any other questions, last thoughts, or burning questions that you have for us?